All right. Hey, Vikings fans. Welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Oh, yeah. And today, I had to spin the wheel of Purple Punishment, and man, it was itchy and scratchy, but I did it.
You did it. You successfully completed it. And we tried a really delicious beer from local brewery here, 5 Cities. It was awesome.
For sure. A beer that everybody should check out. But then, of course, we went on to talk about this season-sweeping victory over the Packers for the Vikings, which was freaking awesome.
And looking ahead to the Vikings taking on the now 14-2 Detroit Lions and the 14-2 Minnesota Vikings. It's for all the marbles in Week 18. The NFC North crown, the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's going to be a huge game.
Yep, the season will end with a bang. But before then, go ahead and check out episode 73 of the Skol Hop. Grab a cold one. Join us.
Skol.
Skol. Hey, we want to say thank you to show sponsor Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to take a trip to an all-inclusive trip to Mexico or Jamaica, go ahead and reach out to Big Top Ventures. Let them know you're interested, and they will give you the best price possible for Mexico or Jamaica. I've used them a handful of times. I just went on a trip with Big Top Ventures here at the beginning of December, and it was fantastic. I can't recommend them high enough, and I can honestly say they give the best prices possible. So reach out to them, send an email to bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. We'll have that below on the screen and in the description, and they'll give you the hookup. So thanks, Big Top Ventures.
Yeah, thanks, Big Top.
Yeah.
We also previewed the beer over on our TikTok page, so head over there if you want kind of our first reactions to this beer, but we're drinking 5 Cities Brewing, which is just a stone's throw away from us here. This is their IPA Positive. It's a collaboration with our local blood bank. Proceeds from sales of the beer go support our local blood bank, so that's pretty cool. And it's a hoppy IPA.
Yeah.
Right? Or a red IPA. That's what I meant to say. It's certainly hoppy. It's got the hop characteristic to it, but it's got that red flavor too. You can kind of see that if you're watching the video. Delicious though. I had this probably a month ago. I tried it for the first time, and I was like, we would definitely enjoy a few of these.
Yeah, this
on
one's
like
the perfect mix between both of our preferred types of beers.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really good. Good job, 5 Cities. Check it out if you get the chance. You bought these, we paid for these, so we're not being paid for our opinions, but these are really good. So
yeah, great beer, and we'll pour up some more here in a little bit, but
that's it. That's all the time we have for today. We don't have to do any more segments. I'm kidding, of course. So in the preseason, I picked the Vikings to lose this game against the Packers, which we'll be talking about today. And thank the Lord I was wrong, but because of that, I have to spin the wheel of Purple Punishments. Evan had to do it solo last week. Check that out. He had to win an eBay auction, and we are still waiting on the delivery of his Jordan Addison
rookie card. Yeah. I'm excited about that. And it said it was delivered, and it did not get delivered today. So we're going to have to go find that somewhere, wherever it is.
We'll get down to the bottom of that. So until you get your Addison card, I refuse to participate in the Purple Punishments.
Well, the punishment was win the auction. I won the auction. I just didn't receive the goods attached with that. So I did complete it. You're going to spin. I'll spin for you here.
There's really only one that I would absolutely hate.
And that one is waxing a limb, right?
No, I'd rather wax a limb than get pied in the face. I don't like being gross, and that would make me gross. I'll do it. I'll do no matter what the wheel determines, but I hope it's not pie in the face.
All right. You ready?
No.
For this to decide your fate.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Don't pick against the Vikings.
Yep.
Especially
I told you the
this
same
year.
thing last week, yeah.
You will be wearing the knitted Vikings hat and beard. And it's right behind you on the floor. So while you get that set up, we will start to talk about this awesome game that the Vikings had against the Packers.
Do we still have any straws?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think so.
Oh, man.
No. Do you want to opt for the Jared Allen mullet?
No,
instead?
I'll do this as stated.
All right.
We did.
I don't think we have any straws down
man.
here. I think they've migrated away. My kids got a hold of them.
I will persevere.
You can still drink beer with that on, right?
We'll see. All right, so if you want to see me wear this awesome knitted Vikings hat and fake beard, because I need one of those, check us out. Our episodes are on YouTube, and you can watch the video on Spotify. I'll probably clip this one out for the first time in a while to be its own video on YouTube. But
this is redemption for when I had to wear a blindfold for an entire episode. Oh, yes. That is wonderful.
All right. You were blindfolded for a whole episode, weren't you? I forgot about that. That was hilarious.
Yeah, at one point, you went like this, and I couldn't see anything. You're like, can you see anything? And I was like, no, I'm wearing a blindfold. Of course I can't see anything.
All right. Well, this I might be really hard to understand right now.
Yeah, you might just move that down.
Just for the sake of drinking, I will not put that fake mustache over my face.
I'll allow it. How does it feel so far?
It's fine right now, but it's going to get pretty warm and a little itchy. I've had this thing for years. It was actually a gift, an awesome gift, but I've never worn it for more than just a few minutes here and there. So, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop, I guess.
All right, so my new goal is to make this the longest episode ever. Just kidding. I'll try to not talk too much.
All right. Well, this one might be the most funny, and just like you with the blindfold, this is going to be the whole episode long. So, this will be fun.
I can't think of a more appropriate punishment for picking against the Vikings when they beat the Packers.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So Skol, man.
Skol. All right, let's do the test of how drinking a beer works with this. Yeah. So we'll Skol it up. Maybe you can give a play-by-play really quick.
All right. I'm looking pretty good.
All right,
it would have been more challenging with the full beard like up on your face.
Yep, we did. We
did some like
we did get
fibers.
some fuzz in my mouth there, but that's okay. Well, we will persevere. We are Vikings, after all. I'm doing my part to look like a Viking. So happy purple punishments for those that celebrate.
All right, well, let's get into this here. Let's talk some roses, some good things. That came out of this game.
Well, first off, if you live under a rock, and somehow you're listening to a Vikings podcast and didn't know that the Vikings beat the Packers yesterday. So we're recording Monday night as we usually do. So I don't know when you're listening, but it's Monday night. It's about 24 hours, maybe 25 hours after the Vikings beat the Packers for the second time this season, which I think it's been a handful of years since either team swept the other in this series. It's usually been, one and the other for one team wins a game between this series each year. So
couple of fun facts before we get into true roses and thorns. I saw this today on Twitter. We're currently watching the Monday Night Football game. The Lions are losing, surprisingly, to the Niners. I don't know if it'll stay that way. The Lions have proven that they're going to continue to play their guys, despite this game really not meaning a whole lot and not affecting their playoff.
Yeah, I hope their starters play. I hope this goes into overtime and everybody's super tired, and maybe even a superficial injury that keeps a guy out for a week or two. I'd be okay with that. But.
Well, something interesting that is an advantage for the Vikings next week when the Vikings travel to Detroit to play the Lions. The Vikings will have roughly 30 plus more hours of rest. Because they played Sunday and not Monday night. So that's a good thing. Another just funny thing, not relating to this Vikings-Lions game coming up, but relating to the Packers. the Packers were a blocked field goal away from getting swept by the NFC North.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they still have to play the Bears.
The Bears are the Packers' last game next week. So.
Yeah. So, but to this point, they could have been 0-5 in the division had they not blocked that kick against the Bears to seal that game. So, talk all you want out there, Packers fans, but this Vikings team is pretty good, and I don't know that the Packers are going to last very long in the playoffs.
That's okay. I can feel this beard and hat being a distraction already, which is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, the Packers, they're a good team. I don't know how deep they'll go in the playoffs, but I mean, they're definitely capable. They're as capable as almost anybody else in the league to beat almost anybody else in the league. I'm very biased. I think the Vikings are the better team, but it's not a heavy margin by any stretch. Like, the Vikings and Packers are close to each other. It's just surprisingly, I think right now the Vikings are playing better. And maybe by a similar stretch, I think the Lions are a little bit better than the Vikings, although that's why they play the games. Any given Sunday, any given Monday, an NFL team can beat another NFL team. So just like we're seeing right now, I think the Lions are about to tie it up with the Niners or get very close. But the Niners, who have had a very off year, they're playing the Lions very good right now.
Yeah.
Any team can beat any team. So all that to say, the Vikings and Packers are not too far off from each other. We'll kind of get into it a little bit, but I think it would be delirious to tweet out something like, oh yeah, the Vikings are awful and the Packers are way better. It's just they didn't have one random wide receiver or whatever. Like, they're just good teams, and the better team won yesterday.
I agree with you. Let's talk roses. What were some good things from this game?
Well, I was gonna say, for most of the game, it seemed like the Vikings did not let off the gas pedal. Yeah. They just kept their head down, and they kept going and going and going until the bitter end. There was a moment where they did kind of let off the gas pedal, both the offense and defense. The defense kind of slipped a little bit late in the second half, where it seemed like they were in coast mode for a minute, but the offense, for the most part, outside of a drive or two, played really well and kept their foot on the gas. And don't get me wrong, the defense played really well too. It's just they started to slip a little bit.
I think it's this offense that is really starting to impress me. And that's, I would say, a rose for me is just the offensive production. And it wasn't that way kind of midway through this season. We were kind of bemoaning this offense, and we were bemoaning Sam Darnold throwing a bunch of picks and having that rough stretch at Jacksonville, and I think even at Tennessee. He didn't play great. And I think at that point in the season, all of us would have said, get rid of Sam Darnold, move on to J.J. McCarthy next year. We'll see what we can do. Things will be fine. But Sam Darnold has played extremely well down the stretch. Like, he's catapulted himself into the MVP conversation. I don't think he's going to win it.
No, I think he's not quite there.
But I think he's a top 5 finalist for MVP. He's setting all of these franchise records and league records, like number of games in a season above 100 passer rating, number of wins with a team in your first year with the team, stuff like that. Like, he's just playing super well, and he's just a likable guy too. Like, you just enjoy watching him play, and he's really seemed to calm down in the pocket. And those kind of mid-season games, they kind of had that sophomore slump, we could call it, in the middle of the season. He was trying to force it. He was trying to push it on Justin Jefferson. I think it was that Jaguars game where all of his interceptions were Justin Jefferson targets. Yeah. And I think he's realized, I don't have to force it to him. And even last night in that game, there were a few moments where he was trying to force it and couldn't quite connect, even though he had a really good game. So yeah, this offense is really starting to click. I think the Vikings relied on their defense kind of in that middle part of the season to get through some of those tougher games, and now here we are at the end, and I think everything's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I guess I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to have one more rose. The defense.
Have as many as you want.
I'm pretty sure the defense has had at least one turnover in every game this season.
I think they're the only team in the league that has taken the ball away from the other team at least once per game.
Yeah. And usually that's like not something you can repeat too often. And it's not as if the Vikings are winning because the defense is getting 2 pick sixes a game. It's just anytime you can steal the ball from the other team, that's a huge advantage. It's one reason we were saying like, oh, if Kevin O'Connell wins a turnover battle, he's like 20-0 or whatever the stat was before it disintegrated a little bit earlier this season. But it is nice to know, like, at some point, this defense, it's almost by design. They're going to get a turnover at some point. And they've been doing it really well. They haven't been like slipping up because they're too focused on swatting the ball down or anything. They take the opportunities when they come. Jerry Tillery, who knew he would be like a pretty solid piece of this defense when the Vikings signed him. Before he was a Viking, he was like a downtrodden former first round pick that never really lived up to it. And yeah, he's not playing like an MVP himself, but the Vikings are getting their money's worth out of Jerry Tillery and honestly a handful of other players on the defense and offense and really everywhere. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, the Vikings are plus 10 in turnovers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So they've taken the ball away 10 more times than they've given it up on offense. So that's really cool. And that's good enough to be in kind of that upper echelon of the league. So, they've had their struggles offensively protecting the ball, but this defense, they just have a nose for the ball and they go after it. And it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many other good things that we should just keep. I mean, we could make this a 2-hour episode if we want.
We've been dangerously close before.
We have.
I think we've had like an hour and 55-minute episode before. I don't think we've crossed that 2-hour threshold yet, but
how are you feeling? That's what I want to know.
As far as like
just your overall
itchy and
facade.
warm. Yeah. I'm a little warm, but honestly not as overheated as I thought I would be with this Viking helmet and beard on. And it's not terribly itchy. I think it helps that I'm not covering my mouth. So say I'm cheating if you want. I'm still following the nature of the game here. But yeah, I'm feeling better than I thought I would.
Here you go. I've got some more roses.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
It's always a good thing when the Vikings beat the Packers, so we should celebrate all of the good stuff. That's a
rose in itself, just beating the Packers.
Beating the Packers, yeah. No, I think another thing is just this team, this culture that Kevin O'Connell has created. I'm sure you saw it. Sam Darnold got a crazy reception in the locker room.
Yep, and we'll bring that up a little bit later in the Skol Patrol segment, but yeah.
And Kevin O'Connell also just he stood there. He just kind of like stood there along the wall and just appreciated his masterpiece for a minute. Let the kids have fun for a minute, celebrate all their success. It was just a really cool moment. This is what he's worked super hard for. And obviously the job's not done, but he's established this mindset that any player that has a microphone in front of them in any interview, they're going to say the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're 1-0. We're going to go 1-0 this week. That's our goal. We're going to try to go 1-0. And it's just a week-by-week, game-by-game mentality. All of them, even Ben Lieber, who played for the team and is now reporting for the team as a part of the team's entertainment network, asked, I think it was Jalen Naylor, on the field after the game. He said, are you guys thinking at all about getting that 1 seed and blah, blah, blah? And it's like, come on, Ben. Like, you know what they're going to say. Mm-hmm. And Jalen Naylor, who probably rarely has a microphone in his face because he probably has 3 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, something like that.
He's definitely
he's got like 5 or 6, but yeah,
he's the wide receiver 3. He definitely plays second fiddle to Addison and Jefferson. But he just had the perfectly crafted response. Now we're gonna try to go 1-0 next week at Detroit, and we'll see what happens from there. And I think that's just the mentality that KOC has established with this team, and it's a really, really good thing. I like it.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I mean, it's nice to feel so good about this team this late in the season.
14 wins.
And yeah, they're not the clear-cut juggernaut in the league, but they're amongst the other juggernauts. Who are the other ones? I mean, obviously the Chiefs, just record-wise, and Dustin Baker was famous towards the end of about a year ago by saying like, hey, I can't bet against the Chiefs anymore because every time I do, they go on and win the Super Bowl. But I mean, the Chiefs are a juggernaut right now. As much as we hate it, the Lions are a juggernaut right now.
Yep.
The Bills are a juggernaut. The Eagles are, I mean, they're a 2,000-yard rusher.
If Jalen Hurts is healthy, the Eagles are dangerous.
But even without Hurts, they just scored 40 points against. I get it; it's against the Cowboys or whatever, but still, they're a juggernaut, and I think the Vikings end off that list. Anybody outside of that list, unless I'm forgetting some like totally obvious one.
I think you got most of them.
Yeah, anything outside of that list is the second tier. Which that's still this year. The second tier is still teams that could go and do something crazy.
The Ravens, maybe.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I mean, yeah, they're definitely a juggernaut. They could win any game. I don't know what the Ravens' record are right now, but between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they should be, definitely feared by any team that's playing against them.
They're 11-5.
Okay. Yeah,
but they haven't clinched their division yet either. So
for sure,
they're in the playoffs, but it could come down to what happens in week 18. They could be a wild card.
Yep. But
on the road.
Just the whole vibe. That's my biggest rose, probably my last rose, is just the whole vibe around this team, knowing that any game, any scenario in that game, unless it's, a crazy blowout, which hasn't happened yet against the Vikings are in a position to win any game. And there always seems to be just something, that feeling of like, okay, no matter what, something's going to go the Vikings' way this year, which has never happened for us. We've always been saying like, oh, he's going to miss the 30-yard field goal. And look, Will Reichard missed a couple of kicks yesterday.
Too, yeah.
And any other season, we'd be really feeling crappy about it right now, 26 hours later, because our kicker missed a couple of kicks. But I haven't really thought about it until I just said it. I mean, that's concerning. You don't want him to miss kicks, but I think it'll be okay. Like just having the non-doomsday sense of feel about this team is very nice.
There was also that really controversial offsides penalty that the Packers got called for right before halftime. Mm-hmm. That was interesting. And then I don't know. I think Kevin O'Connell just kind of got the best of Matt LaFleur, because LaFleur got all hot and bothered about the offsides, mm-hmm. and then he took the timeout to ice the kicker, mm-hmm. to ice Will Reichard, and then Reichard just drilled a 50-yarder to score the 3 points, and it turned out to be a 2-point win for the Vikings.
Yeah.
So that could have been the difference right there, is just simply making that kick right before halftime.
Absolutely. And that coupled with, I think earlier in the game, the Packers decided on like 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Well into field goal range. They decided to go for it and they didn't get it. So that's, one of those swing plays in the game that if it goes the other way, who knows? That could be the difference of the game. Yeah, I thought it was a really fun, entertaining game. And then, of course, the Vikings had to do what the Vikings do and make us all nervous at the end a little bit, after I just spent 5 minutes talking about how they don't make us nervous anymore. But it's still a little nerve-wracking. They've been doing this, though, and they make us nervous, and they pull out the win. So let's hope they can keep that going heading into the final week of the regular season. Because the Vikings are only guaranteed 2 more games this year, and after that, who knows? But it really feels like they're capable of doing anything. It could be, a first-round exit, and it could just go all the way. I feel like any, combination of possibilities is, possible.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about thorns. We've mentioned a few of them as we've tried to remain really positive about our team, but they're not perfect, and no team is. I mean, the Lions, who they've been the darlings of the NFL all season long. Mm-hmm. The Lions they're down by another touchdown again. San Francisco put up another touchdown. Now, I fully expect them to make something happen in this game, mm-hmm. but it's going to be a hard-fought win for them as they get ready to host the Vikings next week. But anyways, let's talk about thorns. Some negative things, some not so great things from this Vikings win over the Packers. I want to start. I think, I really think the clock management is still an issue. Yep. We were texting about it leading up to halftime. The Vikings didn't have to settle for a field goal before halftime there.
Yeah, that was weird. And I don't know. I'm not on the sidelines. I don't know what
Kevin O'Connell's thinking or what's going on. I know he's got a history of taking timeouts to let his better players rest for a second, just to give them a breath, which, hey, that's gamesmanship a little bit. If you need your best player out there, then take the timeout and get him back out there. But it just seemed like it was kind of a Bears collapse, where the Bears earlier this season had that famous
was it Thanksgiving?
Last couple of plays at the end of the game where they just failed to manage the clock well. Eberflus basically got fired because of it. So it was very reminiscent of that for me, and it's still concerning. I think Kevin O'Connell has grown immensely as a play caller and as a game manager this season alone. I think he's taken strides from where he was last year. Granted, he's got arguably a better roster to work with.
Definitely a better defense.
Yeah, for sure. But it's still concerning, and it's still frustrating, and it's going to be things like that when the margin for error is so thin in the playoffs that could make or break the Vikings. And you said it, they could be a first round exit.
And that's the thing. Like, it could be anything that happens in the playoffs, first round exit or all the way or any combination, isn't surprising.
So, overall, Kevin O'Connell, you can't blame the guy because he continues to win. They've won 9 straight, which I think it dates back to like 1973 is the last time the Vikings won 9 in a row. It's crazy. And it's the longest win streak in the league right now, too.
Which is wild.
So, you can't fault the guy for much, but it's those little things that I think will make a big difference when we're still playing football in January.
Yeah. I guess you saying that kind of leads right into my thorn. And I am undercutting myself a little bit because just a couple of minutes ago I said, I haven't thought about this until right now. But Will Reichard he missed 2 actual kicks. And then on that whole very controversial, Packers penalty for, is it offsides? Which I don't think that was a penalty, by the way. I think that's kind of BS or a makeup call for the Vikings or something. Just to be fair and honest, I think the Vikings definitely benefited from that, and it was a little ticky-tacky. So, but Will Reichard, if not, like, he technically missed 3 kicks. It's just only 2 misses counted. That first miss was a 55-yarder, which is not a given, but he's a professional kicker who has proven he's got that range.
I think it was 57.
No, was it? Yeah.
That first one.
Okay. Yeah. He's definitely, you shouldn't be concerned about that distance for Will Reichard at all, as far as, the way he was playing before he went on IR. But he was perfect. And up until, I think, before he went on IR, and ever since then, now he's missed a few kicks. And as Vikings fans, we've seen it firsthand how, a very good kicker in the regular season all it takes is one missed kick and it can ruin your childhood, like it can ruin the chance to go to the big game. But I guess if I have to find a thorn in a game where the Vikings beat the Packers and looked pretty well and have looked pretty well all season, it would have to be just the kicker needs to get it figured out. The good thing is he's physically capable. It's not something that the Vikings have dealt with all season. He knows how to kick. He's proven that. And he was, I think, is he not the most accurate kicker in collegiate history or something crazy like that?
I don't know.
Definitely decorated. There's no question that it's not like he was sitting on the couch 3 days ago, It is fixable, but it's still concerning.
I have to wonder if he's still dealing with his injury.
Maybe,
a little bit. Or if his injury kind of messed with his accuracy and messed with his groove that he was in the early part of the season, because the kid could not miss. Yeah. He was perfect in field goals and extra points for the longest time. And then we heard that something with his quad, that apparently was an injury he dealt with in college as well. And then we saw him miss a few kicks. I don't even remember what game that was, but it was really uncharacteristic of him. And then the next thing we know, he's on IR for 4 weeks. And that's when Parker Romo came in. So, yeah, I have to wonder if that injury is still kind of lingering and if it's affecting him. That first kick, for sure, you understand. It's a 57-yarder. I checked. The second kick, though, was a 43-yarder that he missed.
Now, I think that 43-yarder, was that the one that doinked off the crossbar?
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
The upright, I think.
Yeah. He had one that went off the upright, and then another one. I think it was the 57 or something like that.
I think the 57-yarder hit the crossbar and bounced out, not in. And then I think the 43-yarder hit the upright and bounced out. Yeah. And we've seen him doink one off of the upright and in.
Yeah.
And that happened this year too, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's slightly concerning. And again, I would add to all of that, you're going to rely on a good kicking game in the playoffs to win games, because those games will come down to 1, 2, or 3 points. And a made field goal or a missed field goal could make all the difference, or an extra point for that matter.
Yep. Especially this team this year, and really the whole league this year, most games coming down to 1-score games, field goals are massively important. And if it's concerning enough for a coach to decide to go for it on 4th rather than attempt a field goal, then you don't get it. Like, that's not something you want to have to put yourself into a situation like that.
Yeah, I think another thorn that I would add, and we've already kind of hinted about this, just the slump that the defense finds themselves in sometimes. And I think it's probably a combination of they get tired, but the offense has done enough to put them up by so much that they kind of take the foot off the gas. And again, I don't know that you can do that in the playoffs. I think you've got to be pedal to the metal, full bore, everything.
I'm uncomfortable right now. This beard and helmet is starting to get to me a little bit.
Starting to get itchy?
I'm warm. I'm itchy. I'll persevere. I'm okay. I'm not gonna take it off.
Your natural beard blends in well with the knitted beard.
That's the thing. I think I made a mistake in pulling the actual beard out front of the fake beard. Oh well. If you want to see me uncomfortable again, check out YouTube and Spotify for the video. But yeah, this is definitely a purple punishment. Sorry,
is this a thorn for you?
This is a thorn. This is a big thorn. But yeah, you were talking about the defense getting tired. That was a big issue in the Seahawks game.
Yeah.
The Seahawks almost came back and almost, had a chance to win, because I think directly because the defense was on the field so long, which is only partly because of, they couldn't, stop the Seahawks. But then when the offense goes and has a 3-and-out after a super long defensive drive, like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. And those guys, this is the silver lining. Those guys just go out there and continue to play. And we're not seeing a ton of interchanging. We're seeing some players come in and out, but it's not like every single play you've got guys coming out, new guys coming in to try to keep guys fresh. It's those same guys. It's that same core. You mentioned Jerry Tillery, and I would add Harrison Phillips to that. Those two guys plug up the front, middle, and you hardly see a play where they're not in.
Yeah.
And then you've
Jalen Redmond starting to come in and alleviate that a little bit too. But
you've got some guys coming in, but I mean, and there are countless other guys. Metellus and Bynum and Byron Murphy and Harrison Smith. Like, it's just, this defense is loaded, and I haven't even mentioned the linebackers, right? And Van Ginkel and Grenard and Cashman. They're great. It's been so much fun to watch. This defense is awesome, and there's no quit in them. And
absolutely.
That's what I like. Yes, they get tired, but they're human beings. They're going to get tired. And it's frustrating to watch because the Packers scored twice easily yesterday to get it to 25-27. But I think Kevin O'Connell, aside from the clock management stuff leading into halftime, he managed a pretty good game and got his team into a position where all they needed was a first down.
And they got it.
They got it. Game over.
Did you see the video of KOC's reaction to
Yes.
Cam Akers catching that?
Yeah.
It was every Vikings fan on their couch at home, like, yes,
That's
heck
game.
of a catch. That's game. That's ball game. Whatever he said, it was fun to watch.
Yep.
The Vikings Entertainment Network this season, YouTube and all their stuff they put out. I haven't paid attention to other teams, so I'm sure other teams are doing it well too. But man, the Vikings Entertainment people, they're knocking it out of the park this year.
They're crushing it.
They're doing
great.
it's awesome. It's fun to keep track of and follow along with.
Well, we've got to look ahead to this upcoming game, which the game itself was TBD. All of the games for this Week 18 slate were to be determined until the end of yesterday's games, I think. I was definitely fast asleep when you texted me that the Vikings and Lions game will be in the final slot. It'll be the last regular season game played in this season.
Which is fun.
Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a very long day. I was texting you before the 3:25 kickoff for the Vikings-Packers game. Like, dude, I'm so anxious. I just want this game to start.
Yeah, I was telling my wife the night before, like, I hate when the games aren't on at noon on Sundays. Like, I hate having to wait. I don't care as much about primetime games. Like, that doesn't do anything extra for me. But yeah, it's going to be a long Sunday.
Well, we will know the result of every other game.
Yeah.
We will know all the other playoff matchups because every other remaining playoff team will be decided by that point, and it will literally just be Vikings, Lions for all the marbles in the NFC. Who gets that one seed?
And I'm pretty sure there's only 2 seeds that will be decided. Like, by the time the Vikings and Lions kick off, the only seeds in the NFC that will not be known are number 1 and number 5. And it's just whoever wins that game gets the 1 seed. Whoever loses gets the 5 seed.
Yeah, which will be wild to think that a 13-plus win team would be a 5 seed in the playoffs with several 10, 11 win teams above them.
Yeah. Well, and I
as
think
division winners.
I think we've all seen the tweets and the stats that, like, whoever loses, if the Lions end up winning this game against the Niners, which, again, listeners, you'll know before we do, if the Lions end up winning, then the Vikings and Lions will both be 14-win teams, and whoever loses next week will be something like, it's either the only 14-win team to never win, or to not win the NFC North, or to not win their division. Either way, it'll be a history-making event, and that's one of those things that we put under the list of that's so Vikings to, like, be the only 14-win team to not win the NFC North. Like, that'd be crazy. But in a world where we have 17 games now, and maybe in the future 18 games, like, that'll be more prevalent. But yeah, either way, the Vikings should do some damage in the playoffs. It just would be really nice to have that bye.
And they've proven they can win on the road. I mean, they only have 1 loss on the road. They only have 2 losses total. They lost in Los Angeles to the Rams, but that was on a short week after losing to the Lions because they played that Rams game on a Thursday night. So, yeah, I think the Vikings, either way, 1 or 5, will be a team to be reckoned with in the playoffs. I'm still selfishly hoping for that 1 seed. It would just mean a lot. It would get this roster probably almost back to 100% healthy. And it would just give those guys a breath of fresh air. I think they would come into that divisional round just ready to fight.
Well, and I think
to go out swinging.
Honestly, for the Vikings, I think more importantly, I know you just said they've done really well winning on the road, which is true. But I think anytime you can guarantee home field advantage, to me, for this year's Vikings, that's almost more valuable than the week off. Just knowing that you will be at home for every game until theoretically the big game, that's got to be nice. That's just more time to prepare. You get to sleep in your own bed more often. I know teams, even when they're playing at home the night before, they all stay in a hotel anyways. But that just home field advantage, especially US Bank, it's been it's been so fun to hear that stadium be so loud. I was there for one game, and it was one of the two losses, and that was a dud of a game this season, but it was still super loud in there. When the Vikings are playing well, they can make those events awesome. I've got a friend who attended the Winter Warrior game. Was it Monday night against the Bears? Mm-hmm. And he said, he's a Bears fan. He went up to the game. He said that stadium was amazing. And I was telling him beforehand, like, oh, dude, you're going to love it. It's so cool. The Vikings do a good job. Most teams do a good job. But, man, the Vikings, like, especially for primetime night games, again, I said it didn't matter much to me for primetime. But the Vikings stadium is an advantage on those night games.
Oh, for sure. And, yeah, home field advantage is definitely important too. I just keep thinking about the health of these rosters, mm-hmm. and I think that's a big advantage that the Vikings are going to have going to Detroit, is just being way more healthy than this depleted Lions team. And the Lions, props to them, they're still playing really well.
Yeah, they are,
despite being so banged up and having so many guys on IR. And Dan Campbell's finding ways to win games with guys that we've never heard of before, mm-hmm. because all of his big stars are nursing, big time, some of them season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the road will end for this Lions team.
Hopefully. I mean, that means the Vikings continue on, because I can almost guarantee the Vikings and Lions are going to see each other in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We've talked about it on previous episodes. I think when Forrest was on the show, we mentioned there's a possibility there could be two separate NFC North head-to-head matchups in the playoffs this year between the Packers, Vikings, and Lions.
I'm sure you saw a friend of the show, Dustin Baker, tweeted out a possibility that in the final two regular season games, the Vikings play the Packers, mm-hmm. and the Lions. And there's a possibility that the Vikings then play the Packers and the Lions again in subsequent weeks.
That is true.
In the playoffs. It's very much a possibility. I think, and this will just be my hot take for the episode here, I think there will be an NFC North team in the Super Bowl.
All right.
Representing the NFC.
It's not that crazy of a take, because if you think...
The odds are pretty high, because there's 3 NFC North teams.
Out of 7 playoff teams. That's for almost half of the playoff teams in the NFC are from the North. It is a hot take, but it's almost as much of a not hot take as it sounds. It would be interesting to see. And
it's a lukewarm take.
Well, no, I mean, it's more of like I guess that's right take, like... Theoretically, I mean, half all the playoff games will feature an NFC North team, which, I think that'll be fun to keep track of. Hopefully it's the good guys that are in there and not the Lions or Packers. But honestly, like we just said, even though I said the Packers are on, that second tier, anything can happen in the playoffs. We saw the Vikings lose to the Giants a couple of years ago after going on a tear and having, John Kriesel on the Power Trip morning show, he likes to talk about the 22 Vikings like they had, a horseshoe shoved up their rear end, because that's how lucky they were. And I don't think the Vikings are that lucky this year. They're just that much better this year. But these playoffs are going to be so fun, and I'm going to be unwell until the Vikings season is officially over. I might have a heart attack if they make it to the big game. I don't know.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to have a heart attack wearing this thing on your head right now?
It's itchy. It's uncomfortable. Honestly, the most itchy and uncomfortable spot is like where my beard ends on my neck and where this beard is like rubbing up against my neck. It's a punishment. It's okay. There are worse things. I could have had to take a shot of apple cider vinegar. I could have had to be blindfolded the whole episode. That would have been awful.
I also did that.
I would rather this than be blindfolded the whole episode. I can say that.
All right. Well, that's fair. I did that. I did both of those things you just referenced. I think this would be a good time to bring up some tweets. At least a specific tweet that we've patrolled the internet for.
So we'll throw it up on the screen, and it's kind of funny. Like I don't think any of this whole Skol Patrol segment we're going to be mad about these things. It's funny, especially this one specifically. So the one I picked out, and this is not a unique tweet. Apparently, Lions fans, when they find one take to say, everybody says it in their own way. But the Honolulu Blues Twitter handle, I don't know what they are. Are they a podcast? I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're Lions fans. They posted a video taken by the Vikings of Sam Darnold coming into the locker room after talking to Tom Brady and winning the LFG player of the game. Mm-hmm. He came into the Vikings locker room and was just swamped in the best way possible with a bunch of water bottles. The whole team, chanting. Oh, geez, I hit the mic there. Chanting around him, lifting him up, and Sam Darnold just kind of, excuse me, I had a burp. Sam Darnold just played into it, and Honolulu Blues tweeted and said, Sam Darnold and the Vikings just won a game, LOL. So he's making fun of the Vikings, or she, I guess. I don't know anything about Honolulu Blues.
They are a podcast. Okay. Their profile says that.
Good for them. I hope they are terrible. But yeah, he's just making fun of the Vikings celebrating that much over winning a regular season game against the Packers, which I'm pretty sure I've seen the Lions not win a game all year before. And I've seen them celebrate their first win in November of a season and celebrate harder than that. So good for these awesome, super lucky, entitled for no reason Lions fans who have to look at the Vikings just to give themselves some gratification, even though they have a team that is actually good for once.
And currently, as we speak, the Vikings have a better record by half a game.
Yeah, currently the Vikings are the one seed in the playoffs, which will change here probably by the time this podcast comes out. So by the time our words hit your ears, that will not be true anymore. But as it stands, I do want to say, and maybe we'll throw this up as well, Dustin Baker, friend of the show Dustin, had the perfect reply to Honolulu.
As he usually does. He's really good with that sort of thing.
Dustin, he's a level-headed guy, which is awesome for a Vikings fandom to have. A guy who's a fan of the team and who's also level-headed. So you're going to get honest takes from him. But he replied, or quote tweeted them, and said, quote, "The Lions are notable winners of a lot. So much rich history with championships stacked everywhere that I can see how dunking on Sam Darnold's almighty reclamation moment is fair game." So of course that's the same. It's dripping with the same amount of sarcasm as Honolulu was when they ripped the Vikings for celebrating winning an NFL football game as NFL players. I don't know. When are you supposed to cheer for winning a game? When is it allowed?
I think you can do that anytime.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
When would Honolulu say? Have they haven't cheered once yet, have they, this season? Because winning a game doesn't mean anything, apparently.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
No, I love this because we'll put this out there. I'll screenshot this and we'll have this down there. But I love this video of Sam Darnold coming in, and of course we're Vikings fans. If you couldn't tell, I mean, you just look around. We've got Viking stuff everywhere. I'm wearing my Viking sweatshirt.
I'm wearing a Vikings horn and beard.
Yeah,
this isn't my everyday attire. Honolulu, I know you're watching.
But I referenced this earlier, this moment right here, Sam Darnold getting mobbed by his teammates coming in, Kevin O'Connell just kind of standing alongside the wall watching his team just go nuts and celebrate their quarterback. Like, this is the culture, and it's not even the Dan Campbell, we're going to bite your kneecaps off kind of culture. It's this, I'm a player's coach. I love my guys. I'm going to support them. I'm going to lift them up every chance I get. Kevin O'Connell probably has set a league record for number of game balls given out. He might the team might have to take a cut out of his paycheck or something.
I think that was a thing that happened his first year, a couple of years ago as a coach. He got told after the first few games giving game balls out, dude, You're gonna get charged for these. And I think he was like, fine, charge me. I don't care. What are they? $100 a pop. Let's go.
Well, he gave one to every guy in the locker room after beating the Packers.
I did the math and I was like, okay, if he only gave it to the guys that dressed, that's 46 guys. I think those game balls are retail valued at like $100.
He's spending easily $5,000.
Yeah, he spent $4,600 on a raw moment. So good for KOC. He can pony up the money, especially for the deal he's probably going to get this offseason, which if he's not going to be the highest paid coach in the NFL or amongst them, then the Vikings are doing it wrong and he shouldn't sign that deal, especially after winning Coach of the Year this year.
Let's hope that's the reality. Let's hope he is Coach of the Year. Let's hope he does ink a huge, awesome contract and sticks with the Vikings for years to come. I mean, the potential is endless. Like, if he can do what he's done with Sam Darnold, like, who's next? If Sam Darnold moves on, who's next? If JJ McCarthy moves on after a few years, who's next? Bring in the next guy.
Yep.
Another just little interesting thing that really we haven't talked about, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about at all, is Brian Flores.
Yeah.
It seems like the talk around him exploring head coaching has kind of petered out a little bit. Now, that's not to say that it's going to reignite here as the regular season winds down, as other coaches are released from their duties, and more openings come open for him to consider. But it's just been interesting to me. Like, we were talking about it for a while, like, oh man, he's coaching so well in this early part of the season. This defense is so good. He's gone. He's as good as gone. You might as well, start looking for his replacement in week 5 because he's going to be a head coach somewhere. And we've talked about the legal battle that he's currently in with the league. He's actively suing the league. That could be a detriment to finding a head coaching job. But I don't know, man, if you can keep the band together, if you can keep Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores as the two masterminds offensively and defensively, to me it almost doesn't matter what the roster is. Yeah. Like, yes, the roster matters, the right players matter, but you've got a ton of depth on defense. You've got some young kids coming up that are looking really good. Dallas Turner's looking good. Jalen Redmond has had kind of a breakout season. And then offensively, like, you got 5 quarterbacks on the roster right now. Like, who are you going to pick? Who are you going to take? And you've got this first round draft pick in JJ McCarthy. You've got a former first rounder in Sam Darnold that you could bring back. The options just seem endless, but it's been curious to me that Brian Flores, we haven't really talked about him a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, and I said a few weeks ago, and you just alluded to it, I don't think he will be even slightly considered for a head coaching job until his legal issues or all the legal stuff is resolved. Win or lose, whether he wins or lose, I don't think the NFL will, their ego doesn't go that far. That'll just be, okay, you beat us in this legal battle, we'll cut you the check, and then you're good, so we want you. So that's how it'll go. But I don't think he'll get a head coaching job until any of that is resolved. And who knows, that could be tomorrow, or I don't know any information about that. There's probably dates that are out there on like trials, or I don't know anything about it, but that could be tomorrow. It could be 5 years from now. Who knows? But I think until then, he seems to be content in Minnesota. I know he's got a family. I think I've heard that his family likes being in Minnesota. They're seeing success. He definitely deserves and will get a head coaching position at some point. But if he can stick around for as long as possible and keep being successful like this, I'm okay with that. And I think he is too, because again, I think he's pretty fairly compensated for a coordinator goes as well. So yeah. And there's a whole other episode that we could do about, the future quarterback of the Vikings and everything like that. But yeah, there are some question marks after this season.
We'll get there. There's a whole bunch of free agents that we'll have to talk about whenever this season comes to an end for the Vikings.
And I do have a specific take, and this isn't the time or place, but as far as what to do about Sam Darnold, and I think I've tweeted it out before, but yeah, again, that might, let's get through the Lions first.
The narrative has certainly changed with him, though, and we talked about it at the beginning of this episode, and here we are talking about it again. I think that will be the conversation that dominates the Vikings offseason, is what do you do with this guy that has played so dang well? And it seems like he loves it there too, and he's become kind of the chess player with the media too, because they've asked him, well, what are you going to do? What's on the horizon for you after this season? Oh, we're just going to go 1-0 next week. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to figure it out after that. Like, he's not worried about what's going to happen next year. He's probably sitting at home on his couch watching the Lions game right now.
Yep.
Trying to figure out how he's going to match up against their defense. That's probably what he's doing.
Absolutely.
So,
well, speaking of the Lions, the Vikings play the Lions next week. We've talked ad nauseum about that, but I just want one thing that you think, one key to victory for the Vikings that you think they need to do, and if they do, they've got a really good chance.
I think
I'm putting you on the spot too.
No, I'm ready. I'm prepared. And this has been a key that has unlocked a lot of the Vikings offense this year, and it hasn't always been the surefire we're going to have a league leader in this category kind of thing. We're not going to break any records, but it's the rushing game. It's the run game. Aaron Jones has to get involved. Cam Akers, for that matter, has to get involved. And if the run game can establish itself early on, just like it did against the Packers. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't amazing. I think, what did Aaron Jones finish with, 69 yards or something like that, and no touchdowns?
Yeah, something like that.
And Cam Akers had a touchdown, but it was a receiving touchdown because it was a little screen pass. But I think running the ball opens up this offense, and that's how Kevin O'Connell schemes his offense. And he's a Shanahan. Yep. What's his name? Rams coach. Now I'm blanking on his name. Yeah, he's a McVay product, right? That's how they do it. You get the run game going, and then you feed off of the play action, and you start to create confusion in the opposing defense, and the game opens up. I think that's the move right there. I think getting this run game going early and often. And it doesn't have to be Aaron Jones all the time. Yeah. I think the emotions were pretty high for Aaron Jones playing the Packers in this last game. I think the emotions will be a little lower for him playing the Lions this next week. But give him the ball, give Cam Akers the ball, and establish that run game. And then those naked bootlegs are my favorite plays to watch, because even I, as a fan who kind of knows what to look for when I watch football, you watch a fake handoff and you're like, oh, it's just gonna be a run play, and then it's not, and then he rolls out and he's got all this open space. Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins did it pretty well too when he played for the Vikings. It just opens up a lot, and that's where we've seen a lot of those stacked routes where you've got Addison down low and Jefferson up high, or vice versa, and he has options, and whoever's more open, you pass it toward the boundary, you can get an easy first down. It's those types of plays that I think are opened up by that run game. Key to victory. It's very long-winded. I apologize. Got to get the run game going.
Well, and I don't know the stats on it specifically, but Sam Darnold, he looks like he's very comfortable with that open naked boot after the play action. So that definitely is something to look for. Another thing to look for about that point is the Vikings ended up shutting Aaron Jones down at the end of the game. I don't think he's officially injured. He didn't leave with an injury. I think it's either a quad or a hamstring, something.
Got a contusion, I think, is what I heard.
Yeah, something
Just
is kind
stinger.
of bothering him a little bit, but not enough to he probably won't miss practices. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. He's the best running back on the roster right now. Although Cam Akers, I think I tweeted it during the game, he runs so smoothly. And if he can get any wiggle room at all, he's able to juke and stop and start and go from 0 to 100 in no time. It's fun to watch him run, and I hope he's back with the Vikings, after this season. Same with Aaron Jones. I talked a lot of crap about Aaron Jones, or mostly that I didn't believe in him, and I'm so happy to be wrong about that. I can't argue with that key to victory. I can't really think of a better one, so I think we should just go with that.
Just call it.
One thing we did forget quickly: should we do game balls for this Vikings-Packers game?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, offense. For me, I'm Sam Darnold.
100%.
All the way.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best thing, and you could maybe argue giving one to Kevin O'Connell as well, just for calling a good game. Yep. But they're spreading the ball around, and Justin Jefferson was quoted saying it. Like, it's either cover me, it's cover 18, or cover everybody else.
Yep.
And that's kind of the opposing defense's strategy coming into these games, and the Packers chose to cover Jefferson. He was blanketed all game.
And he still got like 92 yards
He still led the team in receiving. He didn't get a touchdown, unfortunately, but he's a part of this offensive efficiency that's been really good. But yeah, I agree. Sam Darnold, maybe an honorable mention. Kevin O'Connell, just for phenomenal play calling, continuing to put this team in position to win games.
Absolutely. And defense for me, Andrew Van Ginkel. There's a handful of guys that could have got it. I think he got the first sack of the game late in the game. It was huge. Van Ginkel, it's hard to say he's not the best free agent pickup in the offseason because it has to go to Darnold. But he's definitely one of the biggest free agent pickups for the Vikings in a long time. So yeah, he gets my game ball on defense.
Man, this is tough. I will probably have to say I'm going to go with Blake Cashman.
Okay.
He got a game ball from Coach in the locker room, even though Coach gave everybody game balls. Yeah. He highlighted a few guys. He led the team in tackles. He had a couple of hits on the quarterback, one tackle for loss. He contributed to a sack and then had one of his own. So yeah, and he's a Minnesota guy. That's what's cool about him too, is product of the University of Minnesota, played elsewhere, is now back. I think Kevin O'Connell has said it twice now. He's a Viking for good, according to Kevin O'Connell. I think he's gonna do everything he can to keep Blake Cashman around.
He seems to have been the heart and soul of the defense as far as operations go. The only 2 games the Vikings lost, he wasn't playing in. That's hard to argue with.
Yeah, we're gonna need him. He's a key to success down the stretch here and into the playoffs.
Absolutely. My special teams game ball goes to the Packer that got called for offsides. Just because I can't give it to Will Reichard. He missed a couple. I didn't pay too much attention. I don't have too much memory to know how Ryan Wright did. I think he played a decent game. But honestly, as far as special teams plays go, for helping the Vikings, man, that Packer that went offsides, that was the biggest play for Vikings special teams of the game. And I'm not joking. That's who I'm giving it to.
I'm still going to go with Will Reichard, even though he missed 2 kicks. One, to go back out there and keep attempting kicks after missing 2 is tough. And to just, get your head right and stay in a positive mental space is tough. But I mentioned it earlier. Had he not made that 50-yarder right before halftime, the outcome of the game may have been different. So it was a 2-point game, and he kicked a 3-point field goal. So I think that's all you really need to say.
Right there.
That's all you need to say. And he's maybe still dealing with his injury. We don't know. That's my theory. But you're going to have misses as a kicker. Justin Tucker, possibly the greatest kicker to ever do it, went through a slump this season. So kicking is a tough job. And when you're right, most people don't remember. And when you're wrong, nobody forgets.
Exactly.
It's a tough thing. So, still got to give him props for going out there, getting the job done, and helping the Vikings secure the win.
Definitely. All right, well, we've bounced around a little bit, so sorry about that, listeners, but I think the next thing we have, the final thing we have until we wrap up the episode, is our predictions for this Lions-Vikings game.
Yeah, I think I saw you look this up a second ago. You might have it quicker than I do.
Oh, yeah.
What were our preseason predictions for this game?
I picked them to win this game against the Lions, and you picked them to lose.
All right. So a wheel spin for one of us
Absolutely
is impending.
Yep.
Next week. That'll be interesting. I picked against the Vikings.
You did.
That's proven to be a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What about an updated prediction for you? What are you thinking?
As things sit right now, the game is in Detroit. The Lions are seemingly unbeatable. They have a head coach who doesn't give an S and will just make the boneheaded decision no matter what, as long as he feels good about it. The Vikings, their RB1 might be a little banged up. Who knows? Their kicker might miss the next 12 kicks he attempts. Who knows? But with all of that, I think the game is going to be a 38-30 victory for the Minnesota Vikings.
You flip-flopped.
I flip-flopped.
Wow, because when we were texting yesterday, and I could go back to this,
I was trying to goad you, man. I was trying to get at you.
You said, I think the Lions are going to win this. I think it's going to be a blowout. So you...
No, you
were just messing with me the whole time?
Absolutely.
Oh,
That's why I
on.
went over the top and said the thing about the kneecaps. You almost need to screenshot that and post that up. Because
I'll screenshot that
I knew
part
you
of
were
our-
like in a state where I could just totally mess with you. And I was just like, oh yeah, it'll be a blowout. Oh yeah, everybody's going to die. You know,
You got me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was pretty obvious.
No, I
Because then you
that.
joked back with me, and what I said about the kneecaps, you said something about a much, much more sensitive area. I thought that was you like, all right, I got you. Like, okay, we'll go back.
No, that was just me being a bullheaded Vikings fan, disagreeing with your hot take that the Vikings were going to get blown out in week 18.
I don't think it'll be a blowout either way, but I genuinely think the Vikings are going to win. It's going to be a high-scoring game because it's going to have to be.
Yep.
And I think the Vikings, the ball will bounce their way yet again. Hopefully not for the last time this season. And I think the Lions are going to... I really think Dan Campbell, his success is a mixture of him not caring, not choosing the smart answer and going for it on 4th and 15 in their own territory because he feels like it's the best call, and mix that with their offensive coordinator, who is really good, and their defensive coordinator is good too. But yeah, I think the Lions are just a dangerous combination, and it's going to blow up in their face eventually. So I don't think the Vikings will have too much trouble with the Lions. I'm just...
Let's clip that part out.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm going to agree with you.
All right.
I think my score prediction will be a little different.
Okay.
But I think the Vikings win. I don't know how you can pick against the Vikings right now. They've won 9 in a row.
Vegas is, I think.
I know they are.
Last time I checked, it was Lions favored by 2.5.
How many times? I think we did a better job of keeping track of this last season than we did this year. But I think last year we had a list of the spread for each game. The final spread right before the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I kept track of it. And the Vikings were pretty good against the spread. And the Vikings, at least before things really crumbled at the end of the season, the Vikings were upsetting the bettors in Vegas. I think they do that again, and I think it's lower scoring. I think it's a defensive battle here.
Okay.
I think the offenses will struggle. I'm going to say 27-24.
All right.
Which is close to the Packers.
Yeah, well, that was the score of the Seahawks game.
True.
And then the Vikings had 27-25 against the Packers. So yeah, it's on brand.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go for. A little lower scoring, a little closer. 3 points, not 8 points. An 8-point victory. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd take that.
It'll be a dogfight for sure, no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be a tough game, and it'll be a tough environment. The Vikings will, especially the offense, will have to work on some silent count stuff. They'll have to get that all figured out because it's gonna be loud.
Yeah, Lions fans have never had anything else to cheer for, so that's why they're so delusional. So.
All right. Well, what did you think of this beer?
Oh, it's a positively great beer.
I see what you did there.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a good joke.
What's your blood type?
I am B positive.
You're B positive.
Yeah.
I'm A positive.
That feels like information we shouldn't throw out on the internet, but I don't know why. Like, who could do anything with that? Like,
if you need A Positive blood, I can donate it for you.
We'll donate it freely.
But we're referencing that because this is IPA Positive from Five Cities Brewing right here in Bettendorf, Iowa. It's a collaboration with our local blood bank, which is why it's named that way. And it's kind of got that red color. It's an IPA, but it's a red IPA.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why they brewed it the way they did, was to kind of play off of blood.
Yeah, so, I like it a lot. It's something you referenced in our TikTok that it reminded you of the beer that we brewed for the Skol Hop with friend of the show Forrest. It's like a hoppy amber. It's a ambery IPA. So
definitely reminds me of that. Reminds me of Big Grove Arms Race, which we've also had before. Good stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, check out 5 Cities IPA Positive. It's a very good beer.
Absolutely.
Would recommend.
All right. Well, before we close everything out, this week we are going to be on another podcast. We're going to be joining the Mainstream podcast. I believe I might be wrong about all the details on this, so I'm sorry, Mainstream, if I'm getting anything wrong, but I believe they record every Friday, and while they release it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all the places you can find podcasts, they also record live, and we will be live recording on YouTube. So we don't have the link yet, but we will get that and post it out everywhere. Their link for their podcast this coming Friday, the 3rd of January. We will be traveling. They're almost an hour away from where we are right now, and we're going to be talking to them, about the Vikings and about man stuff, because we're manly men, and so are they. But
you're definitely manly with that.
I have a 2-foot long beard here that's totally not fake at all. But yeah, we'll be talking to them, and we'll kind of be talking a little bit about, I assume, the upcoming live event that they are putting together and we're participating in, the On Tap with the Mainstream podcast on January 18th. So we'll kind of be previewing that too. So check all that out. Keep your eyes peeled. If you haven't seen anything, let us know, and we will post out everything we can. Yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. That should be fun. And I'm looking forward to the live event later on in January too, with all the other podcasts, a lot of whom we were able to meet at the Iowa Podcast Awards earlier this year. Yeah, it's not just us. That live event will be us, and of course hosted by the Mainstream podcast. And then there's 3 or 4 or 5 other Iowa podcasts that will be participating in that. So it'll be a really cool event. If you have the opportunity, Bellevue, Iowa, January 18th. River Ridge. We've tried their beer in the last handful of episodes here at River Ridge Brewery in Bellevue, Iowa on January 18th. I think it's a free event. Obviously, if you want any food or drink, you'll have to pay for that. But free to come, just hang out, watch these live podcasts all day, something like noon or 1 o'clock. We'll post up the details, but I'm super excited for that. Yeah. Should be a good time, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with the Mainstream guys again too. They were fun to hang out with at the podcast awards. And I think they've got 4 regular guys, 2 Mikes, a Josh and a Ryan. And I think we'll be hanging out with Josh and Ryan. So yeah, check that out. Definitely keep your eyes peeled. I'm super excited for that, just to hang out with them, not even record anything. It'll be fun. Well, you just mentioned all of our socials. They can you out there, you can find us pretty much anywhere that you can find content. Pretty active on the big social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can find us on those places. We have our own website, skolhop.com. And then, of course, if you're listening or watching to the podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, check us out. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. We would love nothing more than to continue to share awesome Vikings content with people out there. Yeah, and we just hit 200 followers on Facebook, which is kind of fun. We're still at that small level where 200 is a pretty fun number. We got like 4,600 on TikTok, but yeah, come give us a follow, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. I think we should wrap things up here. Yeah. This was a really good beer. I like this. I will order this again. Oh, absolutely. When I'm there, and perhaps get more cans of it. I was excited to see that they had cans available. But good beer, really fun episode. I'm excited to see how the season ends. Yep, me too. Skol. Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures, step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop.